The college football playoff rankings just dropped. We're now on our third round of this thing. We're starting to get a better picture of what this whole operation is going to look like on Selection Sunday, how the committee views specific teams. We're going to go through these rankings. A little twist to this segment right now. I'm going to give you a percentage as to what I think this team's chances are right now today to making the college football playoff. ESPN has their predictor machine. That's great. But we're using a machine to try and predict what people are going to do. Let's just have a person predict what we think people are going to do, all right? So I'll allow that right now. Jumping right into it. First things first, the undisputed heavyweight champs to this point in this season, the Georgia Bulldogs. They have a game at Kentucky this coming Saturday, and they play Georgia Tech to finish the year. Obviously, they will have the SEC championship game. Regardless of, how that game goes, whether or not we expect Georgia to win that game, we're going to talk about that when that game arrives. Georgia's the best team in the country. No real way around it. I give them today a 97% chance to make the college football playoff. So unless they were to essentially lose to Kentucky or Georgia Tech, which I don't see either of those things happening, getting to Atlanta, being undefeated, even if they were to somehow lose that game, I still don't see a world where Georgia gets left out of that Final Four. So for us, number one, for everybody, the number one, I give them a 97% chance to make the college football playoff. At number two, Ohio State, I give them a 50% chance. They play Maryland this week. And then the game of all games, they play Michigan in Columbus. That would be enormous. It's looking more and more like there's only going to be room for one Big Ten team. So that game against Ohio State, or that game against Michigan for Ohio State, regardless, the game, that's what it all comes down to for both these programs. So for Michigan and for Ohio State, I'm putting them at a 50% chance. Michigan is number 3 this week. They play Illinois. As a whole, just like I said, whoever wins that game is going to be in pole position to win the Big Ten and then eventually find themselves in the college football playoff. So for both Michigan and Ohio State at number 2 and number 3 respectively, I have them both at a 50% chance. So Ohio State's at 2, Michigan is at 3. This is where it gets a little bit more interesting. TCU is at 4. Now, if they win out, which is a big if, they play Baylor in Waco this coming Saturday. They play Iowa State the following weekend at home. If they win out, meaning regular season and then the Big 12 title game, which they've already clinched their appearance in, if they go undefeated, they will be in the college football playoff. That's not a secret. I have them as a 45% chance to making the college football playoff for the sheer fact that they will have to play somebody again. It's looking more and more like it's going to be Kansas State. And it is just so difficult to beat anybody twice. And Kansas State was actually up on TCU for a period of time in that game, which isn't new to TCU, but just the fact of the matter is, you got to beat somebody twice. It's really hard to do. I'm not saying they can't do it. And if they do run the table and get in, amazing. But a one-loss TCU will be left out. But they control their own destiny, as do the rest of these other 4 teams. So with that being said, TCU number 4 this week, 45% chance, in my estimation, for the Horned Frogs to make that Final Four. Number 5 is Tennessee. No real surprise here. I have them at a 60% chance to make the college football playoff. Now, a lot of that is depending on how you feel about TCU, but if there is a team that drops here, it's probably going to be the SEC team that doesn't, have the 2 losses on their schedule, not against LSU, and has the best loss in the country, which is against Georgia. Like Tennessee, to me, is right there waiting for the spot to fall into their lap. Now, that probably becomes a conversation also about how you feel about the Pac-12 and who wins the Pac-12 and all that. We're going to get to that in just a second. But as a whole, for Tennessee, for me at least, they are a 60% chance of making the college football playoff. Now, USC is a team that we're going to see how the committee treats them going forward. But if they were to be the team that comes out of this whole thing and is a one-loss conference champion, they have that extra data point, so we'll see how they get treated. That's the conversation, but I lean ever so slightly towards what Tennessee would get in that conversation. So they're at number 5 this week on the rankings. Now, at number 6, the LSU Tigers. A 2-loss team has never made the college football playoff. To the same token, an SEC champion has never been left out of the college football playoff. And so for LSU, they have to play UAB, they have to play Texas A&M. They already have a date set with Georgia in Atlanta for the SEC championship game. I give LSU a 10% chance to make the college football playoff. Now, maybe you're saying, JD, that is far too low. What are you talking about, my man? I understand what you're saying, but the thing that has to happen for LSU to make this a conversation is to not just beat Georgia, but somehow find a way to beat them soundly. That is a very tall task. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying there's a 10% chance in my mind of that kind of showing. So even if it's a close win, I don't feel amazing about LSU making the college football playoff. But again, this week, they're number 6. We'll see how they get treated. If they win out and get to championship Saturday, I'm interested to see how they get treated going forward. But again, that Georgia game is really going to be what tells the entire story for them. So thank you so much for tuning into the Hard Count. I'm JD Piquel. Nick Brake does the real heavy lifting. We would love to have you subscribe to this channel. We have a good time here. We want you a part of it. Come join the party. So until next time, we're going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of the Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.